Will Errol Spence Jr. get stopped on Saturday night?
I always tell everybody, I don't go in there looking for the knockout. I go looking for the win. But if you get out of line, it's going to be the next one down.
Before the first bell even rang, people were calling this a 50-50 fight. Two undefeated champions, two elite welterweights, two men who had spent years destroying everyone placed in front of them. Some believed Errol Spence Jr. was simply too big, too relentless, too physical.
Ross is going to jump in.
That's it, all over.
Others believed Terence Crawford was the most skilled fighter on the planet, a man capable of solving problems that other boxers couldn't even understand.
That will put him in a safe position to let his combinations go. Beautiful right hand.
And the champ gets to him.
For years, the debate consumed boxing. Who was truly the best? The pressure surrounding this fight was enormous. Careers, legacies, pound-for-pound rankings, all of it rested on one night in Las Vegas. And because both men had looked nearly untouchable before this moment, most people expected war. What they got instead was something far more unsettling.
In the sport and Terence Crawford's career in the way that he has done it, these two are capable.
Because from the moment Crawford began downloading Spence's rhythm, the fight slowly transformed into a public breakdown. The timing, the counters, the adjustments.
Give Spencer the advantage.
Long time.
Beautiful combination.
Every round, the gap between them became more visible. One fighter looked prepared for the biggest challenge of his life. The other looked like he had already seen everything before. By the end of the night, the question was no longer whether Crawford was elite. The question was how someone this good had been underestimated for so long. Most champions protect their titles at home, because home is where fighters become dangerous. The crowd is behind you. The judges lean closer. The pressure shifts onto the challenger. And in Scotland, Ricky Burns had become one of boxing's most respected champions. Experienced, disciplined, and nearly impossible to overwhelm in front of his own people. So when a relatively unknown American named Terence Crawford flew overseas to challenge him in 2014, most fans didn't view him as a future superstar. They viewed him as another opponent. Crawford didn't arrive with massive hype. He wasn't the face of boxing. He wasn't selling arenas or dominating headlines. To many casual fans, he was just a talented fighter stepping into hostile territory against a proven world champion. But within minutes, something felt wrong. Burns was supposed to control the pace. Instead, Crawford controlled everything. The angles, the distance, the timing. Every time Burns tried to settle into rhythm, Crawford interrupted it with sharp counters and effortless movement. He switched stances without warning. He landed clean shots without taking damage in return. And the longer the fight continued, the more confused the defending champion began to look. The Scottish crowd slowly went quiet.
Right, let's put on the big finish, and I think he might be going to try and stop Burns here.
Not because Burns lacked heart, but because they were watching a fighter operate on a completely different level than expected. By the championship rounds, Crawford wasn't just winning. He was dismantling a world champion in his own country with a calmness that almost looked disrespectful. And when the final bell rang, boxing realized something important. This wasn't just another contender. This was the beginning of Terence Crawford's takeover. By 2016, people already knew Terence Crawford was talented, but there was still doubt. Some believed he looked dominant simply because the competition around him wasn't dangerous enough. Others questioned whether his style would hold up against a truly elite technical fighter, someone disciplined, undefeated, and intelligent enough to force him into a real chess match. Then came Viktor Postol. Postol wasn't reckless. He wasn't emotional. He was one of the most technically sound fighters in the division, an undefeated world champion who had just destroyed Lucas Mathesy with one of the best performances of his career. Many analysts expected a close fight. Some even believed Postol's reach, patience, and jab could frustrate Crawford over 12 rounds. Instead, Crawford turned the fight into a masterclass. From the opening rounds, he began reading Postol like a code that had already been solved. Every feint drew reactions. Every angle created openings. Crawford switched stances constantly, need not changing the geometry of the fight before Postol could ever settle into rhythm.
That's going to be scored as a knockdown because his knee touched.
And the terrifying part was how calm Crawford looked while doing it. Nothing felt rushed. No wasted movement, no panic, no emotional exchanges. Just adjustment after adjustment after adjustment. By the middle rounds, Postol looked frozen, hesitant to throw, hesitant to engage, almost afraid of making the wrong decision. Crawford had completely taken control of the mental side of the fight. Then came the knockdowns. Not wild power shots, not lucky punches, precision. The kind of shots that happen when one fighter understands the fight several steps ahead of the other. And by the final bell, the undefeated champion who many believed could expose Crawford had instead been systematically broken down in front of the entire boxing world. It was no longer just about athleticism, or speed, or power. This was something else entirely. This was boxing IQ at the absolute highest level. When Jeff Horn defeated Manny Pacquiao, the boxing world exploded. Some called it controversial, others called it a robbery. But regardless of the debate, one thing was undeniable. Horn had just beaten a legend and captured the welterweight title. Overnight, he became known as the aggressive pressure fighter willing to drag elite opponents into ugly, physical wars. And for a moment, people wondered if that exact style could create problems for Terence Crawford. Horn was bigger, stronger than most opponents Crawford had faced at welterweight, relentless with his pressure, awkward in exchanges, the kind of fighter who didn't care how clean the fight looked, as long as he kept pushing forward. But Crawford never looked intimidated by any of it. From the opening rounds, he studied Horn patiently. Calm eyes, small adjustments, no wasted movement. While Horn charged forward with aggression, Crawford quietly began building a solution in real time. First came the timing, then the counters, then the control. Every round, Horn looked more frustrated, trying to force a fight that Crawford refused to lose emotionally. Whenever Horn rushed inside, Crawford punished him. Whenever Horn tried to make the fight rough, Crawford answered with sharper precision. And slowly, the pressure fighter began breaking apart. What made the performance so unsettling wasn't just the damage Crawford inflicted. It was the composure. He never looked rushed, never looked overwhelmed, never looked caught in the chaos Horn normally created for opponents. Instead, Crawford walked through the fight like a man solving a familiar problem. By the later rounds, Horn's aggression no longer looked dangerous. It looked desperate. Blood covered his face. His attacks became slower. The confidence that helped him shock Pacquiao was disappearing round by round under Crawford's control. Then finally, the referee stepped in. Not because Horn lacked toughness, but because Terence Crawford had completely dismantled the man who had just defeated one of boxing's greatest legends. And once again, the boxing world was forced to ask the same question. How do you beat someone who adjusts faster than everyone else? By the summer of 2017, Terence Crawford was already undefeated. But becoming undisputed required something different. It required destroying another champion. Julius Indongo wasn't supposed to be easy. He entered the fight as a unified world champion riding serious momentum after shocking the boxing world with victories over Edward Troyanovsky and Ricky Burns. Tall, awkward, dangerous from long range. The kind of fighter capable of ruining plans with one mistake. And because Crawford was chasing history that night, the pressure was enormous. Undisputed championships are rare in boxing. One bad performance changes everything. But from the opening seconds, Crawford fought like a man who already knew exactly how the night would end. There was no hesitation, no feeling out process, just immediate control. Crawford pressured carefully behind sharp counters and constant stance switches, forcing Indongo backward before the champion could ever establish rhythm. Every movement looked uncomfortable. Every exchange felt dangerous. Crawford wasn't simply faster. He looked mentally ahead of the fight itself. Then came the body shot. A single left hand exploded into Indongo's ribs with terrifying precision. At first, the crowd almost didn't understand what happened. Indongo stepped away, paused, and collapsed to the canvas in pure agony. No dramatic combination. No wild knockout exchange. Just one perfectly placed shot that instantly shut the entire fight down. The arena erupted. Commentators screamed. And Crawford simply walked away calmly, while a unified world champion writhed on the floor, unable to continue. It wasn't just the knockout that shocked people. It was how effortless it looked. The fight everyone expected to test Crawford had lasted barely a few rounds before ending in one of the coldest body shot finishes of the modern era. And with that victory, Terence Crawford became the undisputed champion at 140 pounds. Not through controversy, not through close decisions, but through complete domination. By that point, boxing could no longer deny what was happening. This wasn't hype anymore. This was greatness unfolding in real time. There are fighters who lose because they get hurt. And then there are fighters who lose because for one night, they meet someone better. Shawn Porter had built his reputation surviving the absolute worst boxing could offer. He had fought champions, pressure fighters, punchers, technical masters. And no matter how brutal the fight became, Porter always found a way to keep coming forward. That was what made him dangerous. He wasn't easy to discourage. You couldn't outwork him comfortably. You couldn't bully him. And most importantly, nobody had ever stopped him before. Not Errol Spence, not Keith Thurman, not Adrian Broner, not Danny Garcia. Nobody. Which is why many people believed Porter would give Terence Crawford one of the hardest fights of his career. And early on, it looked possible. Porter attacked with constant movement and pressure, forcing exchanges, refusing to let Crawford settle into rhythm comfortably. Unlike many opponents, he wasn't intimidated by Crawford's patience. He was willing to make the fight chaotic. But slowly, something began changing. Crawford started adjusting. The counters became sharper, the timing became cleaner, and every reckless entry Porter made started carrying consequences. Crawford wasn't just reacting anymore. He was anticipating everything before it happened. Then came the 10th round. A counter shot dropped Porter hard. He got back up. The crowd erupted. But seconds later, Crawford caught him again with another brutal sequence that sent him crashing to the canvas a second time. And suddenly, for the first time in Shawn Porter's career, he looked vulnerable. Not broken physically, broken strategically. His father, trainer, and lifelong mentor, Kenny Porter, watched from the corner, understanding something most fans didn't want to admit yet. The fight was no longer going to change. Crawford had figured him out completely. So before Shawn Porter could take more punishment, Kenny Porter made a decision that shocked the boxing world. He stopped the fight himself. The arena fell into confusion. Some fans were angry, others emotional. Shawn Porter himself looked frustrated, almost heartbroken. But beneath all the emotion was a reality impossible to ignore. Terence Crawford had just become the first man in history to stop Shawn Porter. Not through wild aggression, not through luck, but through patience, precision, and total control. And in that moment, Crawford no longer looked like just another champion. He looked inevitable.